EtherFi, the name, I think, one of the most prominent names in the LRT ecosystem. Obviously, like in DeFi as well now, but it started as I think it's, if I'm not wrong, it's the biggest LRT protocol.
Yeah, by far, yeah.
Yeah, by far. So I used to work with Stader, like,
Okay,
like
yeah.
Kelp, right?
Yeah, of course.
Kind of competitor, but not direct.
Right, yeah.
So I know Kelp team from the very close. We had the same teams and all. And internally also, like, EtherFi was like kind of the, like the ways to look upon, like how you guys are executed and like kind of grab so much mindshare. And I think with EtherFi coming in, followed by like the LRT ecosystem boom. Now in hindsight, like personally me, I'm very much into Eigen ecosystem and restaking and stuff. All this LRTs and like restaking, making this stuff liquid makes sense. But back 2 years, it was like, I think Sriram himself has also mentioned that so many AVSs will come up or not. He wasn't sure. Getting so much money locked in. He might have thought 1 bill or 2 bill. It just went up to 20 bill when Ethereum is at like $3,000 that price range.
Yeah.
I just want to know what made you kind of pick up the space, because it's risky, it's very uncertain and new kind of thing.
Sorry, which space?
LRT ecosystem, or the restaking ecosystem. Because as I was mentioning, now it looks, hey, restaking is sexy, Eigenlayer is all good and nice. But then when you started, it wasn't like this at all. Lots of uncertainty, new space. What kind of like problem statements you saw? Is there something related to your background you figured out that, or was the generic your observation was that led to the foundation of EtherFi?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say when we were first starting, restaking wasn't this hot narrative. It was sort of in the background, and so people's perception was that we were starting more focused on just a staking protocol, and that was already a very crowded space. Of course, Lido was super dominant. I mean, they were had something like 95% market share in DeFi. And so then the question was, all right, what could we possibly do in order to differentiate from Lido and actually get market share? And for us, one of our big theses was that restaking was going to turn into a big narrative. So in the very beginning, even in our seed round deck, the pitch was staking is the largest category in DeFi, and restaking gives this opportunity to potentially replatform that category and create a very large player in the space. In addition to that, since the very beginning as well, we the goal was always to use staking really as a base on which to build a broader platform for users. And that's what we've done. And we call that platform today DeFi Bank. So it's basically a crypto native neobank, based in that it's non-custodial, but offers a lot of the same services that a user would expect from a traditional bank, including the equivalent of a savings account with some interest, an ability to deploy assets into DeFi, and then a credit card for spending and kind of day-to-day use. And that consists of these three products that we have: EtherFi Stake, which was our first product, and liquid staking; EtherFi Liquid, which is the kind of investment product; and EtherFi Cash, which is the wallet and the credit card.
I think as we were mentioning about these specific products, I think EtherFi started, as we are discussing, mainly as a restaking platform. The biggest by far means that's like it kind of started the entire LRT ecosystem and stuff. How the transition happened, like from a LRT, which is a very niched kind of space, to a DeFi Neo Bank, which is kind of I don't know, I can't even point at the TAM because it's just ever growing thing.
Very large, yeah.
How the transition happened from within the team, or what are the gaps you observe and how you position it in that way?
Yeah, so again, like I said, it was actually part of the plan from day one. If you look at our Series A pitch deck, it's right, which was from a year and a half ago. It's right there. The goal is to build a vertically integrated platform, and restaking or staking as a base was really just a way it made sense as a first product to get a lot of users, a lot of TVL, get some scale, and then use that in order to then build these adjacent products. And the adjacent products kind of logically actually follow from one another, because step one is you have some ETH. What do you want to do with it? Okay, the relatively low risk thing you can do is stake it and earn some interest on that. And then we added a bunch of other assets to that. Great. Now you've got some staked ETH. What can you do? What can you do with that? Well, you want to use it in DeFi. Okay, so that's the liquid product. Is it automates deploying those staking assets into DeFi, earning higher rewards, but also also at a higher risk. So that's kind of analogous to an investment product. Great. Now you've got these assets. They're deployed in DeFi. Number go up. Okay, who cares? What can you do with that? Well, you want to spend it. You want to use it in your real life. So that's the cash product. So the cash product is the wallet and a credit card attached that you can now use to either use your stables directly in day to day, or to borrow against your stake or DeFi positions, and then use that in your day to day life.
I think also like for restaking as a place has changed a lot, right? Like initially, as mentioning that Eigen was not struggling but haven't anticipated that they will get so much restake capital, but now the restake capital is like significant. It's like as it was like $10 to $20 billion in restake capital based on Ethereum's price. How do you are seeing restaking as a niche, as a space? Like, is there a more potential to grow on that? Like, can do Eigen's cryptoeconomic securities enough now, or do they need more? And if they don't need, like, then what's the next phase for all these LRTs? Because like there are pretty like lot of LRTs, and like although EtherFi has a significant amount of capital, but there are many LRTs including Kelp, Renzo, Swell, I think, who have all around $1 billion, somewhat floating around that region, 500 million to 100 billion. Those itself is a good amount of capital which lies there. So, like, based on my understanding, those are, I'll not say big, but decent enough to be considered. But I personally think LRTs might have faced a hurdle or a bottleneck, but like want to know your thoughts because you have built in the space for the first hand. And what's your general perception of the next phase of growth for the LRT ecosystem as a whole?
Okay, yeah, so yes, a lot of questions there. I mean, I think the amount of security EigenLayer now has, the amount of restaked ETH and now other assets is plenty. There's lots of, I think there's more than enough security there. Really, of course, what's needed are applications. So restaking networks that will then generate revenues, have customers generate revenues, and then be able to pay some sort of reward rate on the security that they're using. So I think that's really, I mean, that's a long-term project, right? Because both restaking and a lot of these restaking networks this is a complex tech stack, right? And so I think it's very likely going to take years for these things to actually develop, mature, and start growing a big customer base. So that's I think that's the journey that we're on now. I think there's more than enough security restaked in EigenLayer, so I don't think that's the bottleneck by any stretch. I think the bottleneck is really getting more projects that actually make use of EigenLayer as a platform.
I think that's the quite a debate now in, like, if you see in CT and in Eigen ecosystem, like initially was when mainnet, second was like when slashing, the third is when real use on Eigen. And as you mentioned that about the restaking networks or AVSs, as they know, they kind of need to be profitable, or they need to generate revenue so that they can then pay the operators and restakers. Again, like, I know like you guys are now focusing on the DeFi side of things, but again, I think the Eigen and restaking from very fundamentals. So wanna know like this AVS networks, right? Yes, I think it will take 3 to 5 years for actually generate a revenue like what Ethereum is giving, 3 to 4% return. So I think it will be like, even to generate a 3% sustainable yield, if for the AVSs to mature, there will take time. But like any idea on time, like proper time frame, and what are the kind of AVSs or the restaking networks as I was mentioning, you think can have a chance to generate revenue quick?
It's so hard to predict timeframes. There are a number of really interesting projects that already are doing interesting work. there's some interesting stuff happening on pre-confirmations. Primev, I think, is one that's doing good stuff.
And Puffer is also doing one.
Yeah, that's right. Puffer's doing one. There's some other really interesting stuff around ZK co-compute stuff. Yeah, ZK TLS is an interesting one. I mean, this is lots of people have sort of talked about this, but in the end, some of these teams just kind of have to deliver and actually build a product, launch it, get customers. That's what it's going to take.
I think as a LRT protocols, I think this is kind of maybe a little 1 year back question, but I just want to clarify again as we're discussing that. How this LRT protocols choose the operator sets, which to delegate on? Because these operators will now kind of...
The node operators?
Yeah, like eigenvalidators or node operators, whatever. How they choose, which to pick, where to delegate our stake? Is it some kind of automated framework or is some kind of whitelisted mechanism? Because let's say you have $1 billion. Now these operators will do this work for these networks. Now, how will you kind of decide which operator to choose in, how the mechanism works, if you can just take us to that. And with slashing now coming in, I know most protocols, I think nobody has slashing mechanism yet live, but slashing is not live, and in 3 to 6 months we might see slashing being implemented. There is a chance that this capital which the restaker are putting in, there's a chance of that getting slashed. So want to know how you are selecting that operator sets, and how the mitigation process of slashing happening in all LRT specific to EtherFi, how they are tackling this.
Okay, so node operators, I mean, we have 15, I think, node operators that we work with. We really just sort of were able to identify and onboard those operators because they were reputable and just good players in the space. And had a really strong track record. So, and then over time, we onboard more and more, node operators.
Just to clarify one thing, if we check the Eigen dashboard, right, there are these operators which is called Kiln by EtherFi. Or let's say P2P by EtherFi. These are your node operators, right?
So that's like Kiln and P2P. Just the way EigenLayer is set up is you need to register an operator, and that operator has that's how you decide which AVSs basically you restake into. Is you can think of it as just an address. So that address, you can register a bunch of you can stake some ETH and register a bunch of AVSs onto that. So the way we've implemented, which I think is the right way, is we created a smart contract that acts as the registered operator, and then that then is it has a dedicated node operator attached. So the fact that it says EtherFi Kiln is just okay. So that's the smart contract operator, and then the node operator is Kiln that's associated with that. So hopefully that makes sense.
So these are your operators, right? All this we see, these are the 15 operators we're talking about. There's 15 different companies, or are you talking about some separate operators?
Well, those are the ones that are doing staking and restaking for us. So they do both.
Okay, got it. I think restaking is I think it can be evolved. I think you guys have obviously the max mindshare. I think we have the capital. And I think that makes very sense to kind of, as you was mentioning, to kind of evolve into a DeFi protocol. And you mentioned 3 specific things. I think one is what restaking is. One is kind of the investment product. One is kind of the wallet. And I think credit card kind of comes under in this space. Just want to know the development time frame of that. How things are can we use EtherFi beyond restaking at this moment? And how are the DeFi goals of EtherFi currently planned for the next 2 quarters, and how can we use EtherFi more as more than a restaking product, more in the DeFi space as of now, as of today? Where are the developments? And
so all of those products are available. So if you go to ether.fi, you can stake, you can deploy into DeFi, you can use the wallet and the card, you can download the app. So it's all available. I would say it's if you're like a heavy DeFi user, it's like a pretty viable and good alternative to a traditional bank for you. And over time, it'll become more and more comprehensive. That just it covers kind of all the kind of typical use cases. So it's all available. I mean, the next the area of focus for us as far as like a roadmap goes is really fleshing out that functionality so that it it's comparable to maybe a traditional neobank. So it's comparable in terms of feature set to like a Revolut or Nubank or Chime or something like that, where it's one app that lets you basically do all of the main financial things that you'd want to do.
I think before we wrap up, want to discuss a little bit about the DeFi in general, because you guys are now, as we are discussing, that it's not LRT protocol anymore. It's like a DeFi Neo Bank, although I think that category itself is not very big as of now. And EtherFi has significant chance to own that again, that DeFi Neo Bank narrative. Want to know, like first thing is, like we have existing neobanks, right? Let's say, as you was mentioning, I think we are from India, we have separate sets of users. Dubai has separate sets of neobanks, but these are very popular across the globe, right? So how do you think this crypto-focused neobanks will come in? Like, will they be kind of, let's say EtherFi goes big, will they kind of plug into the existing neobanks which are there because they have ready-made customers? Or there is kind of a separate neobank ethos which kind of popped out of crypto, that is a chance? And also, like, how it will be the end user experience? Like, I am for sure they need not know it's a crypto or what are smart contracts and everything. But like, just want to tie all these things up, like kind of the GTM, if I mention, how in popular marketing language people mention that what will be the maximum chunk of users for this crypto focused neobanks will be coming in as of now? What you're thinking and what you're planning out there?
Sorry, so what is your question? Your question is how do we acquire users?
No, not exactly that. Not exactly users. Like, okay, so we have these crypto folks already, right?
Yeah.
Who are kind of DeFi maxis and stuff, but we need to grow beyond.
Yeah.
And DeFi is the perfect place to kind of get the users beyond crypto. And I think it's not only about the users, but how can we grow beyond the crypto narrative in the neobank or the neobank DeFi space? Like, is it by going into some new kind of BD strategies, or is it like plugging into this existing neobank, or anything you are like envisioning on that?
So our approach to growing our user base is sort of in 3 stages. Stage 1 is get to a certain scale with DeFi native users. So today it's a little bit hard to say how many DeFi users are there exactly, but it's probably low single-digit millions. So 1 to 3 million users, maybe globally, which is very small numbers. There's a ton of capital there, but very small number of actual people using DeFi regularly. And so for us, our goal is to get to 50 to 100,000 users within that customer base. I think those are very valuable customers. I think they again, have a lot of assets. They, I think, generate a lot of revenue, but I think we can get to, let's call it 100,000 customers that way. And we think we can do that this year, just based on the launch and how we're growing. I think that's achievable. The next stage for us is then to start going after CeFi users, so people that use exchanges. So those folks are comfortable with crypto, but they don't use DeFi because DeFi user experience and just how cumbersome it is. It's just they're not interested in participating in that, and that opens up the market to maybe a few 100 million users, probably 1 to 200 million kind of monthly active users. And so with that target customer base, I think we can reasonably scale to 5 to 10 million users by giving those users a way to access and use DeFi, but with much, much better user experience in that it in many ways feels like a CeFi product, but it is fully self-custodial. It's on-chain. It is very much DeFi. Then once we've gotten to that large scale, we can go after the normies, and those folks, I think, we expect and would want those users to adopt the product because it's just a really great fintech platform. and they won't necessarily even know or care that it happens to be on crypto rails. To them, they just download an app that has really low fees, it has great rewards, it has tons of value and flexibility for them, and that's why they'll adopt it. So that's kind of the growth plan for us. And I think over time, I mean, we can scale to be one of the largest financial institutions in the world. I mean, the power of DeFi is that it really can be global. And so we're not tied to like any particular geography or market. I mean, we could go broad very quickly.
I think that's like the information you shared. I think that can be the playbook for any DeFi app. I think that is exactly why I was not sticking to the word user. What you exactly mentioned, this is what I was looking for, because it's a proper playbook. I think not only EtherFi, but any people who are like building in DeFi and kind of following up. Like first you follow the initial power customers, then you kind of grow the DeFi base, like over the DeFi users, 1 to 3 million you mentioned. Then you grow to CFI, and then you build for the people who are like not crypto native at all. I think that's the kind of the last people we are going to target. About the third stage, right? I think first and second stage, I think the developments are ready. I think, yeah, obviously tech will improve, but I think there must be more BD initiative to get this stage 1 and stage 2 people.
Yeah.
But for stage 3, right, I think that is where many advanced protocol, like say Aave and Uniswap, which are pretty big in DeFi, they're focusing on. I want to know your thought about the positioning of that positioning, in the sense, like as you mentioned, we don't want this third cohort of people or third stage people who are not crypto native who know exactly what they're doing. As you like correctly mentioned, that they should feel like, okay, it's easy to use, it has low fees, and it has good rewards. But like, how will we kind of brand or communicate them on narrative? Will it be crypto? Will it be some sort of digital assets? What's the communication there? Like, what's your thought?
To people who are not crypto interested in crypto.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the value proposition is going to be in some ways no different than, an approach than like any fintech. The value is going to be it's cheaper, you get higher rewards, and more flexibility. Like that's, none of that has to do with crypto. None of that is pitching crypto in and of itself.
Like how will we introduce these folks to like digital assets? Like for sure, I think most people they're like, okay, they've heard of Bitcoin. They might have heard, okay, it just goes off the route, but they might have, oh, it's a scam system. I think that's the general narrative across the world based on my perception. But like, how will you get to these people in a decent way? Like, do you think the word crypto is needed or something like that? So that like, okay, these people, because we know gases will be cheap. If sustainable businesses are there behind the scenes, they will get the rewards also. And UX, I think we need to solve that. That I'll come to later, one question I have there. But like, in terms of general talking to these people, what can be the communications, or how can we reach out to them in terms of narratives? That okay?
Yeah, like I said, I don't think the narrative needs to talk about crypto. It shouldn't talk about crypto. I mean, especially because I think most people associate crypto with gambling, with scams, with it doesn't have very positive connotations. So the narrative really has to be much more around, as I said, the value of the product, right? Like if you're trying to sell a car or a house, like, you're not going to talk about the operating system of the car or whatever. You're going to talk about or how the car is wired. You're going to talk about, okay, how fast does it go? How much does it cost? How big is it? Like you talk about the features of the car. Like that's what makes it a better product. When you go to a website, you don't care whether they're running on Amazon Web Services or Google Cloud or Azure or whatever. You're there to do something productive. You're there to solve a problem that you have. So in the same way, I think that has to be the pitch. But step one of that is to build a useful product. And in crypto, that sort of muscle, I guess, hasn't really been developed. In crypto, for most projects, the product is the token. In other words, it's just what kind of nonsense narrative hype can be generated in order to launch a token and cash out. That's what everyone is focused on. That's that makes sense just because of the nature of crypto. It just lends itself very well to gambling. But I think you kind of need to be heads down, focus on building products that actually have utility, and then grow from there.
And before we close, I think the last question will be, which we're already discussing, is the UX. right? I think even for CeFi user or CEX users, crypto UX is a huge challenge. Like you connect your wallets, you remember the seed phrase, like so many stuff. Then for multi-chain projects, it's like you change the chain. Still, for I think Ravis has solved that to a lot extent, but like there are many wallets which like you need to like download the or like get the native token of that chain. Pretty cracked up entire onboarding framework. I think even centralized exchange users will not use. Forget the third stage users which you were mentioning. What do you think? What are the immediate fixes we can do? Like since like as we are discussing, you are more
Yeah, I think. I mean, I would say what we're doing. So with our app, when you create an account, you start using it. Like you don't have to think about wallets. You don't think about addresses. You don't have to think about signing transactions. You don't have to think about what chain you're on and like bridging. Like you don't have to worry about any of that. All of that is abstracted away. You don't have to think about gas. You have money in this asset that you can onboard, from your bank or whatever. You just on-ramp money into it. And then you can do stuff. You can spend it. You can invest it. You can buy some ETH. You can buy some BTC, whatever. You just use it. You don't think about any of the crypto bullshit that you have to think about. There's no browser extensions. There's no signing random hex code transactions. There's not like the way it's designed. You can't sign arbitrary transactions where you click something wrong and like all your money is gone. If you lose your keys or your phone or whatever, there's a way to recover it. So just like all the crypto bullshit is abstracted away. I think that's just going to be table stakes if you want normal users. That's why CeFi has 100 times more users than DeFi, because just all the bullshit is abstracted away. Like nobody wants to deal with I'm not saying anything profound. Nobody wants to deal with the type of stuff that DeFi forces you to deal with. Nobody wants to like eat glass in order to earn some interest on their money. And that's unfortunately what DeFi is today.
Awesome. I think thanks, Mike. Thanks for talking to us. I think we'll obviously have more discussions. We'll like to host you more. I think really great to see a category which kind of popped out in the past 2 years. You guys led it, then kind of expanded it and became the leaders. And then now coming to the DeFi landscape, trying to own the space. I think obviously long way to go, but I think the roadmap looks pretty cracked, especially how we are working well with the product. And I personally also use EtherFi. Got the drop also, the initial ones. I think it was great. I think even the drop was very fair. People were happy. And I think awesome. I think all the best for the next set of roadmap. Wishing you all the success so that EtherFi become big and kind of take the crypto ecosystem ahead.
Great. Thanks for having me.